What are some of the dumbest decisions people will make because their brains just shut down? Let's find out, starting with number 6, whiskey business. Mary Kate Wichalonis, a 23-year-old model and sales executive for the Tennessee Titans, earned herself some pretty hefty consequences after a night out after she was involved in an altercation with a security guard. Apparently, she was at Whiskey Row, a popular bar in Nashville, Tennessee, named after the area's historic association with whiskey production and its various whiskey-themed establishments. When police arrived at the bar, they found Mary Kate on the ground, detained by security. Officers noted that she seemed impaired and smelled of alcohol. According to the security guard, Noah Williams, Mary Kate tried to sneak her boyfriend into the bar since he forgot his ID, leading to a confrontation where she aggressively went after him before other security guards subdued her. Why her boyfriend forgot his ID is anyone's guess. Like, dude, you're going out to bars all night and you don't have your ID? Most dudes have one wallet and it goes everywhere. Anyway, at first, Mary Kate was only going to get a citation, but then she refused to provide fingerprints, which led to her detention. She was booked into the Metro Nashville jail and charged with a bond set at $1,100. In the aftermath, Mary Kate decided to resign from her dream job with the Titans. She talked about her devastation over the incident, saying that it was out of character for her. Despite her skills and enthusiasm, the altercation ended her 5-month tenure with the team. She's young enough that she'll recover from this and likely find some success, so at least there's that. We've all done a lot of stupid things when we were young, and honestly, if she was hanging out at a place called Whiskey Row, then this sort of thing probably happens every night. Number 5, Officer Naughty. Shan Herman, former Metro Nashville Police Department officer, was fired and arrested for participating in a raunchy OnlyFans video while on duty. The video, titled "Can't Believe He Didn't Arrest Me," featured Herman inappropriately touching a woman during a staged traffic stop. Herman's problems began when he was identified in an OnlyFans video filmed during what appeared to be a routine traffic stop. The video was posted by a popular content creator and quickly gained attention online. Herman's actions in the video, which we're not going to talk about here, were deemed highly inappropriate and unprofessional, especially since Herman was on duty at the time. The video included a brief moment where Herman's police department patch was visible, leading to his identification and subsequent investigation. MNPD Chief John Drake continued the investigation even after Herman was fired, resulting in Herman's indictment for felony official misconduct. He was arrested and his bond was set at $3,000. The incident sparked outrage within the police department and the community. MNPD officials condemned Herman's actions as disrespectful and outrageous, talking about the damage it did to the department's reputation. A Reddit post featuring the video and discussing Herman's firing included a comment from someone claiming to be the creator. She defended Herman, explaining that the video was consensual and filmed off-duty and on private property. However, the official stance from MNPD remained firm, and that he was on duty, leading to Herman's arrest and charges. And whether he was on duty or not, putting on that uniform means Herman was representing his department, so the charges do make sense. Like, if you just happened to see this whole thing going down, you wouldn't know that he wasn't on the job. And the thing is, this sort of stage scene seems like it's becoming more and more common, especially in law enforcement, so there needs to be some real consequences. With skits like this and AI headed the way it is, it's becoming more and more difficult to believe anything you see on a screen. The only way to tell if something is real or not is if it makes total sense, or if you see it in person with your own eyes. We're probably all eventually going to have to unplug to get away from all the fake nonsense, but is that necessarily a bad thing though? Number 4, court embarrassment. Joseph Ruddy, one of the country's most prolific federal narco prosecutors, was caught trying to use his business card to avoid charges in a hit and run while intoxicated. At the time, his blood alcohol level was over twice the legal limit. Ruddy, 59, was at his home when Tampa police arrived to investigate a crash. Apparently very drunk, he was seen hunched over his pickup truck, waving his business card at the officers as they approached. So the officer was like, "What are you trying to hand me?" and warned Ruddy about how it was going going to look on his body camera. The body cam footage in fact showed Ruddy admitting he fled the scene. The officer was like, look, you hit a vehicle and you ran. You ran because you're drunk. You probably didn't even realize you were in an accident. To which Ruddy was like, yeah. When asked why he didn't stop, Ruddy explained that he didn't realize it was serious. Ruddy was charged with driving under the influence with property damage, but not with leaving the scene. Apparently, he had sideswiped an SUV, clipping a side mirror and tearing off a piece of the vehicle, which was found lodged in his truck's fender. A witness had reported that Ruddy didn't brake when he crashed, explaining that he crashed his car into another car and just kept going, and he was swerving all the way up the road. So the witness said that they just followed him until they got the plate number and reported it. Ruddy still represented the United States in court literally days after the incident to help with a plea deal involving a Brazilian man caught with over 3.3 tons of nose beers off the coast of Guinea. The Justice Department confirmed, however, that Ruddy had been pulled off 3 other pending criminal cases and removed from his supervisory role at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Tampa. Ruddy is known for co-creating Operation Panama Express, known as PanX, a task force targeting smuggling by sea. Over 90% of U.S. Coast Guard interdictions at sea are attributed to PanX intelligence. Between 2018 and 2022, Ruddy and his colleagues handled cases involving 888 tons of contraband and the detention of 2,776 smugglers. It's bad enough that this dude was already driving drunk, but for him to try and exploit his position like literally every other person who's in a position of authority and gets in trouble is frustrating and hypocritical. Driving drunk is clearly dangerous, and he's lucky no one got hurt. So, okay, just admit that you made a pretty serious error in judgment and accept your consequences, you know? Just like you expect everyone else to do. We're so tired of the special treatment these people think they deserve when they hold everyone else to different standards. Number 3, drunker than you think. A Colorado lawyer, Denise K., faced serious consequences after 3 DUI arrests in just 18 months. She agreed to plead guilty to all charges and was sentenced in Arapahoe County Court. But when K. showed up for her sentencing, the judge suspected she might be under the influence and ordered a breath test. The test revealed a breath alcohol content of 0.324, 4 times the legal limit. As a result, K. was held in contempt of court and spent 3 days in county jail. K., who had no prior criminal record in Colorado until 2022, first ran into trouble when she backed into a parked car. Her blood alcohol level was 0.298, more than 3 times the legal limit. She was sentenced to 12 months probation and required to use an interlock device, which is basically a breathalyzer used to start her car. And despite these measures, Kay continued to drive under the influence. In August of 2023, she was stopped by police for a suspected DUI and then backed her car into a police cruiser. At the time, she was driving a car without an interlock device. She pleaded guilty to DUI, but the charge of evading the interlock device was somehow dismissed. Then, a few weeks later, police found Kay had driven her car onto a pile of landscape rocks at a grocery store. Her blood alcohol level was 0.297, and she was charged with DUI again. Why she got so many chances, we'll never guess. Kay expressed her regret and embarrassment over her actions, which probably felt a bit flat since she did it so many times, and acknowledged that her drinking problem knows no boundaries. As of the release of this video, she's serving jail time with the work release, and she's grateful she hadn't hurt anyone. Rebecca Green, Colorado's executive director of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, known as MAD, pointed out that traditional deterrents such as jail time, probation, and interlock devices might not always be effective. She discussed the potential of new technology called the Driver Alcohol Detection System for Safety, known as DADS. This system, developed by the auto industry and the federal government, detects alcohol in a driver's system through their breath and touch, preventing the vehicle from moving if the driver is over the legal limit. Green believes DADS could be as revolutionary as seatbelts, potentially saving lives by keeping impaired drivers off the road. And we're not opposed to it, since drunk driving has touched pretty much everyone's life in some way, right? It would seem like it would have about the same loopholes an interlock device has, but at least it's something. The fact that Kay actively circumvented her interlock device multiple times means she should probably have her license pulled permanently. There's literally no excuse to drive drunk these days. Number 2, the stealing bookkeeper. Kelly Tweeten from Fargo, North Dakota, was sentenced to 3 years of probation after stealing tens of thousands of dollars from her employer, Dietrich Homes, a home construction and real estate contractor, where she worked as a financial manager. The theft was revealed when the owner noticed discrepancies in the business accounts and began an investigation. Tweeten had been transferring money into her personal bank account and writing fraudulent checks to herself. She made 5 checks totaling over $15,000. Additionally, she made purchases on the company credit card and used the business account to pay off the charges before the owner could see them. On one occasion, she even direct deposited $7,000 into her personal account from her office computer after hours. Despite her attempts to cover her tracks, the company found out about what she was doing and estimated that she stole between $80,000 and $100,000. Investigators later found that in just 4 months, Tweeten had stolen around $42,000 through direct deposits alone. After she was confronted, Tweeten texted the company president, admitted to the theft, and promised to repay the money by the following Monday, because nothing says "I'm sorry" like a text. She pleaded for leniency, explaining that her mind wasn't right and asked not to be arrested. And of course, that didn't work. So Tweeten was promptly booked into the Cass County Jail and appeared in court, where her bond was set at $50,000. She was released after paying 10% of the bond and promising to attend future court appearances. While she received a suspended 5-year prison sentence and will serve probation instead, the financial damage and betrayal of trust left a lasting impact on Dietrich Homes, who's still recovering. And there was no way she wasn't going to get caught, you know? You can't just take that amount of money from a business in that amount of time and think no one was going to notice. Of course they were going to notice, and Tweeten had to know it. Yet, she continued stealing anyway. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to stay tuned right here to find out just how much these guys wanted to leave their country. Number 1. You're smashing my windshield, Smalls. Thomas John Youre, Smalls from The Sandlot, got in some serious legal trouble after a bizarre incident involving his neighbor. In Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Youre was arrested and charged with multiple offenses, including malicious injury to personal property and disorderly conduct. The incident occurred when Youre was seen throwing a 35-pound dumbbell into the windshield of his neighbor's Jeep. He then walked back to his house, only to later approach his neighbor's front door while holding a knife. This unsettling behavior was captured on surveillance footage, which also showed Youre ringing the doorbell with the knife in hand. So the neighbor answered the door and was like, "Really, dude? You shattered my windshield." Youre was then like, "Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry. I'll get you back," while still holding the knife. He did eventually put it down before police arrived and didn't seem to be threatening with it, but still, crazy, right? Despite his apology, the damage was done, and Youre was taken into custody. He was released the next day, but later pleaded guilty to the charges and was ordered to pay $757 in fines. The incident marks a significant fall from grace for Youre, who once starred alongside James Earl Jones in The Sandlot and appeared in other well-known films like Lassie, Black Hawk Down, and Mystic River. His behavior hasn't only brought legal consequences, but also tarnished his public image as an actor from a beloved childhood movie. Youre's lifestyle before this incident seemed relatively low-key, with no reports of extravagant purchases or overly opulent living. He seems like he ended up being just a normalish dude. However, his crazy behavior has now overshadowed his previous successes, leaving everyone to wonder what on earth was going on. At the time of this video, the reasons behind Youre's actions are still unknown. Whatever was going on though, we hope he figures it out. Luckily, no one got hurt, and no real damage was done. What are some of the most ridiculous ones that actually worked? Let's get started with number 7. Love is blind. Then 72-year-old Angela Nwachukwu got married to 27-year-old CJ Nwachukwu just 3 months after meeting him. But the age difference and short courting period aren't the only red flags in this story of love. You see, Angela lived in Britain and CJ lived in Nigeria. The couple were thousands of miles apart, and Angela had to marry him on the first day they met back in Nigeria. How romantic. The only problem with their rosy marriage now was that the UK Home Office had refused to give CJ a visa to come to the UK. The argument was that he didn't prove that he had enough financial backing. This was despite the fact that Angela had spent over £20,000 on getting him the visa. This may look like a fraudulent relationship to you, and Donald Neaty, Angela's ex-husband, agrees. He says that Angela has always been the gullible type and that it was clear that CJ just wanted to take advantage of her to leave Nigeria. No. He says he hasn't spoken to Angela in over 18 years and only got wind of her marital adventures with CJ in the papers. With CJ having been refused a visa, what was the next step for the two lovebirds? Well, Angela had decided to work towards securing a student visa for her husband. But it was a hard process for them. Applicants at that time were required to prove that they at least have an annual income of £18,600 between them. They also had to have cash savings of around £16,000. And there are charges of £1,464 for each applicant. Angela insists that the relationship isn't a scam since she admitted that she really didn't have much money and she was upfront about that with CJ from the beginning. We aren't quite sure of what's exactly happened with CJ and Angela since there's no news about them since 2017. Who knows? Maybe they are actually living happily ever after? We'd definitely be a little bit embarrassed that we ever doubted them. Number 6. The Russian astronaut. An unnamed man scammed a little old Japanese lady by claiming that he was an astronaut who needed money to return to Earth. In a twist that may astound even the most accomplished comedy writers, this ruse worked and the woman ended up sending our astronaut roughly $30,000. The entire story started with Instagram. This astronaut kept posting pictures of random things in space and said that he worked at the International Space Station. Okay, it's a bit left field, but it's not too ridiculous. His victim met him on the app and explained that he could only communicate on it because the astronauts at the space station had limited access to mobile service. He then got her to message him online, a Japanese messaging app. Online, he professed his love and she quickly reciprocated. He told her that he wanted to settle down in Japan and have a long and happy life with her. There was a problem though. He couldn't do that if he didn't leave the station, and to leave the space station, he needed money. You see, astronauts have to actually pay for the cost of their rocket back and also need to pay landing fees to the country they arrive in, and all of that was out of pocket. However, there was some good news. All of this was actually affordable and just cost thousands of dollars, not millions. Our astronaut's victim loved him so much that she decided to send him the money. Over 5 installments, she sent him 4.4 million Japanese yen, which was worth around $30,000 at the time. But even that wasn't enough. The astronaut kept asking for more money because, as you know, rockets are expensive. But this time, the victim had seen enough. She reported him to the police and was informed that she'd fallen victim to a love scam. Number 5. Trust me, I'm a celebrity. Brenton Robert Jarrett made a criminal career out of pretending to be a celebrity. Jarrett used his fake star power to defraud victims and even get some of them to get romantically involved. On one occasion, he said that he was Josh Hitchcock, the grandson of legendary director Alfred Hitchcock. But Alfred Hitchcock doesn't have a grandchild named Josh. He also claimed that he was Johnny Depp's brother and once claimed that he was Skeet Ulrich. While impersonating several celebrities, Robert made sure to take as many liberties as he could. He slept with women who believed he was a real celeb and took freebies from hotels and restaurants while impersonating other people. Jarrett left a trail of victims in his wake, and when he was eventually arrested, there was a lot of evidence to jail him. In court, he claimed that he had only committed his crimes because he was bipolar and was truly sad that his victims had suffered. We bet Skeet Ulrich also probably tried to pretend he was Johnny Depp's brother too. Number 4. The Official Secrets Act. Daryl Flynn defrauded multiple seniors of thousands of dollars by convincing them that she was an undercover police officer. In one of her scams, she convinced Diane Baston to part with her money in the belief she was assisting an important police investigation. So she drove Baston around town and had her take out loans and buy a bunch of electronics. Flynn had such a hold over Baston that she refused to even speak to the actual police for fear of breaching the Official Secrets Act, a policy made up by Flynn as part of her story. It apparently took police quite some time to convince her that they were the genuine article. Flynn's scam was simple. She convinced these seniors that they would be helping in an important police investigation that was investigating banks and managed to pilfer more than £20,000. Flynn used fake IDs to convince the seniors that they were doing the police a great service and continued scamming them to her heart's content. Her current scheme was just another in a long line of frauds where she used respectable positions to take advantage of the elderly. Thankfully, Flynn was soon arrested and made to face the music. music. She was eventually sentenced to 8 years in the slammer after feigning remorse for the first time ever. Looking at her picture, how could anyone believe her though? She looks like a scary person that lives in the trash can in a park on the bad side of town. Number 3, the $72 million lie. 18-year-old Muhammad Islam told a New York Magazine journalist that he had made $72 million trading stock. It was an incredible story with one glaring issue. It was a complete lie. In fact, Muhammad hadn't made a single dollar trading stock. But the magazine, who didn't bother to fact-check a teenager claiming to be incredibly wealthy, didn't know this and published an interview with him anyway. The headline said that Muhammad had made $72 million trading stocks during lunch break at school. The story was met with disbelief by everyone, because everyone isn't brain dead. The disbelief was so palpable that the entire case unraveled within just a few days. Before long, Muhammad himself was on CNBC, revealing that his entire claim to fame was fake. He confessed that he had never made a dime from trading and had merely lied about his earnings from trading and investment. But that wasn't what he had told the New York Magazine reporter who spoke to him. He'd played into the whole teenage millionaire trope and had spoken of making $1 million through trading. He even said that some investor was willing to give him $150 million to start a hedge fund. In the defense of the magazine, he'd shown the reporter bank statements showing that he was worth at least 8 figures. These were all pieces of evidence that the magazine needed to base its story on. When the story broke that Muhammad had just been telling an elaborate story, several news organizations picked up on it. So, Muhammad decided to hire a PR firm to manage his reputation. The firm argued that Muhammad wasn't a fraudster and had merely stretched a story and everything had gotten away from him. Since Muhammad didn't really gain a penny from the entire scheme, that may be true. But the fact that Muhammad created evidence to show that he was a millionaire makes us think that he might be a little more guilty of stretching the story than we first thought. So how did this all start if Muhammad had never traded stocks a day in his life? Where did the rumors that he was a millionaire stock trader start? Well, it happens that our man was making simulated trades at a high school investment club. Muhammad's simulated trades were so successful that he made more than $72 million off of them virtually. His numbers were even more impressive than the S&P. But instead of being truthful, he told the New York Magazine journalist that he had made the trades in reality. But people weren't gullible enough to believe his story, and just a little public pressure unraveled his entire tale. And you can almost get how this got away from him, right? You can see how he was like, oh, totally radical, dude. Or whatever kids say today. Oh, that's Gucci or something. When he found out a big magazine thought his trades were real. Then he did the thing we all wish we had the guts to do and said, I wonder how far I can take it. We would have chickened out. Instead, he's like, yeah, bro, I made like 72 million or something, bro. Dope. And then the reporter just eats it up without even questioning it. We're not condoning it. So definitely don't take advantage of some gullible major magazine with some insane story that we'd end up covering because it's so crazy. And don't shout us out while you're doing it just so we do a deep dive on you. Totally don't do that. Number 2, the village idiot. Yeah. Arthur Stimpson believed that he had won the lottery, but he ended up being catastrophically wrong. The entire episode started when Stimpson received an interesting email back in 2007. The email was titled, Attention, Notification of Award. The body of the mail told Stimpson that he had won a massive cash prize in the Spanish lottery. The mail listed a number for him to call to claim his prize. When Stimpson called, he was told that he had won £2.7 million. He was overjoyed at the prospect of this prize, and the scammers on the other end of the phone were overjoyed at the prospect of defrauding him. Stimpson didn't know it yet, but calling that number would be the first in a series of awful decisions that would lead him to lose his home and his family and land in prison. The voice on the other end of the phone told Stimpson that while he may have won the lottery, he wasn't going to get his money easily. Apparently, there were things like administration charges and transfer fees regarding taxes that he needed to pay. And Stimpson had to pay all these fees to get access to his winnings. Why he didn't think they couldn't just deduct the money from the winnings, we'll never know. He probably realized it when he went to his cell way after the fact. Like he's just about to eat lunch and just freezes and says, wait a minute. Anyway, at this point, most people would have thought that, but not Stimpson. He wanted to be a millionaire instead of a critical thinker. Before we continue, it's important to understand that Stimpson isn't just a random guy. He's a pretty accomplished chartered surveyor, so he's not poor. He didn't need the money as he was relatively wealthy and had the respect of his community. But come on, who seriously wouldn't want an extra £2.7 million? Anyway, Stimson believed the voice and started paying phantom fees for a bounty that had never existed. Total, he paid out $50,000 in fake fees and had nothing to show for it. But the game was only just beginning. Over the next year or so, Stimson would send over $1 million in payments to the scammers. One time, he even put 75,000 pounds in a plastic bag and handed it over to supposed men from the lottery board. The scammers didn't let Stimson rest after taking that first 50,000 pounds. They kept asking for more money in fees and charges, and Stimson didn't see the problem in this, or if he did, he made sure not to mention it anywhere. In due course, Stimson's money ran out and he was forced to start borrowing from neighbors to continue paying. He borrowed 100,000 pounds there, 10,000 pounds here, 50 pounds there, and on until he had borrowed over £1 million to pay the scammers. The most ludicrous thing about this case in particular is that just a few minutes of research on Google would have told Stimson that the lottery wasn't genuine. We mean, besides all of the other shady stuff they had him doing, not making it obvious. Seriously, how did him handing off a bag full of money to some guy like he's buying a ton of contraband not tip him off that something was weird? The bank that the con men used to give the entire scheme legitimacy didn't even exist. A simple Google search would have told Stimson that the so-called Casablanca bank had no digital footprint. Additionally, there was an email claiming that part of the windfall had been deposited at the Madrid branch of the Banca Unicaja Bank. While this bank is real, a Google search would have proven that it was mostly used in fraudulent schemes like this one. Through all this, our man Stimson was determined to get this windfall and paid through his nose for a fake cash prize. Stimson was so convinced of this that he told people that he would pay them £10,000 for every £1,000 he borrowed. He was so certain that the lottery payment would come through any time. You may wonder why he didn't just stop, but it's possible that he believed that he had reached the point of no return. He had simply paid and sacrificed too much to just stop now. He hoped to gamble and pray that the money eventually came through. While it's possible that Stimson did pocket some of the money he was borrowing and use them to pay other debtors, the police believe he gave everything to the scammers. Eventually, Stimson became bankrupt and had to forfeit his house to debt collect. He was arrested and fraud and forgery charges were brought against him. He pled guilty to all of them and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. The scammers were never caught, and since the case has now been closed, it's unlikely that they'll ever face any judgment for defrauding Stimson. Number 1. Internet trolls. Jessica Adelman tried to warn other people about a scam she fell victim to, but was bullied by internet trolls instead. Because the internet only cares about cats. See? That made you happy, didn't it? Jessica had been searching for a flexible online job that would allow her to work from home. But instead of getting a great remote job, she was duped of over £15,000. The website she saw claimed that people could make money through it by leaving reviews for a large company. But the site also encourages users who signed up to pay money for upgrades. These upgrades came with higher percentages of commission. That was the primary vehicle the site used to scam her. According to Jessica, the site never asked her for payment information, but when she started working, she got a prompt that if she paid £70, she would make £220. She was skeptical about the whole thing, but paid the money. Shockingly, she received £220 in return. Unfortunately, the real scam started when Jessica was put under pressure to review package orders, which she had to pay for. Outside that, the website allowed her to pay for an upgrade that would allow her to receive 5 times the commission that she earned. But that upgrade cost £7,500. So Jessica paid for it, and halfway through her workday, she received another package order that required her to pay £7,500. Before long, she was given another order that required her to pay £28,000. That's when she noticed that something was off and she had been scammed. But the story somehow got even worse. When Jessica brought the story to TikTok and told the world about it, she received hundreds of bullying comments. The bullies told her that she was gullible for falling for the scam, and many had no empathy for her. Thankfully, it wasn't all bad. Some people made helpful comments and told her how they had fallen for the same scam. It just goes to show how widespread this sort of scam is. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what you'd rather do. Have to eat a 16-ounce jar of mayonnaise or go vegan for a year.